Welcome to the Complete Streets Commission's June 11th regular commission meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with commission members, city staff, and members of the public participating in accordance with public health guidelines. I would like to introduce Complete Streets Commission members and city staff present. I am Chair Athena Yerkomos. Commissioners present include Sally Cole, Jackie Sebrian, Meredith Bergen-Bailey, Scott Herscher, and Kevin Rennie. City staff present include Katrine Maki, Senior Transportation Planner, and Joanna Chan, Transportation Manager. Joanna, would you please provide instructions to the Commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Chair Eric Homos and members of the Complete Streets Commission. Welcome everyone to the June 11th Complete Streets Commission meeting, and thank you for attending. For members of the public who wish to provide public comment for any item on tonight's agenda, after the chair calls for public comment on that item, if you're in person, we ask that you fill out a speaker card available at the back table and return that to the clerk's desk. If you're participating virtually, attendees on Zoom may engage the raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. That concludes the instruction. I return the meeting to the chair. Thank you.
Okay. I should also mention that Commissioner Raskoff is absent. Okay, so next is reports and announcements. Under reports and announcements, city staff and commission members may communicate general information of interest regarding matters within the jurisdiction of the commission. No commission discussion or action can occur on any of the presented items. Katrine, can you give us some reports and announcements?
Yes. First, I would like to properly introduce Joanna Chen, our new transportation manager in the transportation team from Public Works.
Hi, I'm Joanna, and it is my pleasure to be joining all of you tonight. Just a very quick little bit about me. It's my 6th week with the city. My background is in transportation and infrastructure planning. I've been working in the planning and engineering field for the past 10 years, majority of which in the public sector. Prior to that, I've actually worked in architecture and construction for a few years. My focus has been developing policies, plans, TDM programs. I've also worked a lot on CIPs involving rail corridors and ped and bike infrastructure. So I am very excited to get to know you all better and to work and learn from all of you. Thank you.
Welcome, Joanna.
Okay, and we have a couple other announcements. The City Council had a meeting last night where the City Council considered the reopening of Santa Cruz between Curtis and Doyle. They considered, I believe, 3 different alternatives and decided that they would make no changes at this time. Also last night, the construction contract for the El Camino Real and Ravenswood Avenue crossing improvement was awarded. This project will complete the missing crosswalk at that intersection and also includes the mid-block kind of pedestrian refuge as well. And so this construction is tentatively scheduled July to September. It'll happen like over the summer.
I just want to say to the new people on the commission, this is like an awesome moment where something that you heard about and worked on over the years is like happened. So I'm really thrilled. I mean, Jackie and I have talked about this, but we see kids crossing there all the time, whether there's not a crosswalk. So grateful to the city that you got the grant and moving forward so quickly.
And it's happening. Yay. And then the last item is that June 24th will be the City Council budget adoption. And that concludes my reports and announcements.
So the next is public comment. Under public comment, members of the public may address the Complete Streets Commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. You are not required to provide your name or city of residence, but it is helpful. The commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. Joanna, please call for general public comment.
For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raise hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please fill out a speaker card from the back table, bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. We do have one virtual speaker. Ken?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Good evening, council members. I'm Ken Kirschner, a resident in Allied Arts. Menlo Park faces a critical safety gap on El Camino Real. Caltrans has protected extended bike lanes from Mountain View to Menlo Park's border, but they abruptly end at Sand Hill Road, forcing cyclists into dangerous, unprotected traffic. If you haven't seen the protected quick curb channelizers, they are a game changer. And I've shared some photos that I hope Katrine can show. Neighboring cities like Palo Alto, Mountain View, and Los Altos proactively secured enhanced Class 4 facilities, including physical separation and no right turn on red at intersections, leveraging Caltrans repaving projects. Redwood City and Atherton have El Camino Real protected bikeway designs in process. Menlo Park is becoming an isolated exception in this regional push. For too long, Menlo Park has adopted a follower stance on El Camino bikeways, evident in discussions like 6 years ago, May 8th, the Complete Streets Commission meeting where Commissioner Kirsch noted the progress in neighboring cities. Our segment's Caltrans repaving is slated for 2028 design and 2032 construction, a timeline we cannot wait for. I urge the Commission and City Council to become a fast follower. Please request staff to plan and prioritize, at a minimum, the El Camino bikeway design for the segment from Sand Hill Road to Middle Avenue. This could be integrated as part of the Middle Plaza intersection design, which is already partially funded by Stanford and doesn't have to wait until the distant 2032 repaving. We need a phased plan that includes a quick build pilot so we are not waiting 7 more years for Caltrans. This will create a continuation of the bikeway corridor that brings regional bikers as part of the revitalizing downtown and businesses on El Camino. Bikers and pedestrians are hyper-local shoppers that businesses truly need in this era of increasing e-commerce. Local service business employees also need a safe and direct route for affordable commuting. El Camino bikeways support our city's goals for safety by daylighting intersections, VMT reduction, and eco-friendly trips. El Camino Real is a high-injury corridor demanding safe, separated infrastructure for all users and local access. We need safe El Camino bikeways now, not in another decade. Thank you.
There is no other virtual attendees.
Under regular business, so we're on regular business now. The commission considers recommendations from city staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require commission approval. The first regular business item tonight is E1, accept the Complete Streets Commission minutes for May 14th, 2025. Any clarification from the commission before I take public comment? Okay, Joanna, please call for public comments on this item.
For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raised hand feature, or if you are calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please fill out a speaker card from the back table, bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. Having no one in queue for public comment, I return the meeting to the chair.
Do I have a motion and second to accept the minutes? Commissioner Bergen Bailey with the motion and Commissioner Rennie with second. And I guess we should take a vote. Sorry, there's comments in here on how to vote. Sorry, should we take a vote on that? So all those in favor of accepting the minutes, please raise your hand. And that is 6 votes for accepting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
Sorry, just to pause, I just want to, for my own edification. So is the chair the one who's going to call for the vote? She's going to do, okay. It didn't used to be that way, so just wanted to make sure. Okay, check on with you guys. Okay.
Okay. The next item is item E2, Complete Streets Commission 2025 to 2026 Work Plan Review. Will Katrine Mackey present this item, please?
Yes, I have a quick presentation that I will share in a second here. Okay, this is the work plan for 2025, 2026. It looks long, but I promise you I will go quick. We'll go through the roles and responsibilities, the work plan process, remind you of the city council goals that our work plan should follow, and then talk about some of the progress that has happened from the last year's work plan and what ideas we have for the next year. So the roles and responsibility of the Complete Streets Commission is primarily to hear public testimony on projects and then also provide project recommendations to City Council. This is from the formal document from City Council saying that the Complete Streets Commission provides advice and recommendations to the City Council on realizing the city's adopted goals for complete streets, Vision Zero, and the Climate Action Plan. It provides.
I'm so sorry. What document is that from?
This is from, it was in the staff report as an attachment. It's the City Council, I think it's a resolution that creates the commission and then provides a charter for what the commission is doing.
I just thought it was interesting, the language. You just read the language, right? It's in the
Yeah.
staff report. The language said that we, I think it said something like we listened to public comment. But I think, I mean, I don't know.
It's a much larger document. This is just an excerpt from the
okay.
main
I'll
line.
take a look at it later.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The process for editing the commission work plan is the discussion and feedback that will happen today. I'm anticipating more discussion, more edits, so I'll have it make notes tonight and bring back a version next month for approval. We leave ourselves 1 month just in case we don't have quorum or something else happens, but it needs to be adopted by September 9th. So in the August meeting, by the August meeting, because we have to bring it to City Council at September 9th. That's kind of also in the bylaws of the commission that we need to have an annual work plan that gets adopted at that meeting. Separately, but also on our annual cycle of things to be done, we report out on the work that's been done the past year. So the August 12th report out to commission or to council is a backwards looking report of what's happened for the year. So these are the 5 goals that City Council has set this year as priority. 4 of them are the same goals as the year before. They added downtown vibrancy as a new goal for this year. This is a new one that was added to the work plan or I added a new one to the work plan because the city's climate action plan mentions the Complete Streets Commission. And so we thought it would be important to reflect that in the work plan. And so that you're aware, and this was also attached in the staff report of the climate action plan, their strategy number 4 is to reduce vehicle miles traveled. And the approach is kind of done in 2 ways, through either changing zoning, encourage higher density near transit, or making the city easier to navigate without a car. Of there are some work plan tasks I think that won't necessarily change because the work continues to be ongoing. And so we have some maybe clarification wording, but fundamentally advising on pilot projects throughout the city is something the commission has done before and will continue to do. The same thing for Safe Routes to School and Vision Zero. The evaluation of the citywide bike rack inventory wasn't complete, so we'll continue it on from one work plan to the other. And then I think the Middlefield Safe Streets project may have been on before, and that will continue to be on because we'll work on it this year. And then the new items, I just talked about the climate action plan strategy number 4, and another idea that had been discussed. We discussed it when we had our ad hoc committee, would be the help working on the Public Works website and how we communicate things to the public was one suggestion. So tonight, our actions, the staff recommendation for an action is to review the red line work plan, confirm the ongoing and new tasks. And then we also tonight need to designate a commissioner for the August 12th report out on the 2024-2025 work plan. September 9th isn't a presentation, but it will be a consent item in the agenda, and there's a chance there'll be questions. Sally, you said in the past we've sent someone from the commission, correct?
Yeah, it was, last year it was Liz.
Okay.
Elizabeth Gang.
Yeah.
She was the vice chair, and
So yeah, it'd be good to have someone there just in case, but it's probably
well,
just a consent
We did
item.
get questions from a council member before the meeting, but at the meeting, she didn't get any questions. But
Yeah.
there were questions from the council member directed to Liz and me before the September meeting.
Okay. Is this legible? Let me see if I can move the closed caption. And I can pause here for your discussion. I do have a couple more slides to specifically talk about development projects and the development review that happens by city staff, but I will turn it, this concludes my presentation for the moment.
Thoughts or comments on our plan? Or,
Oh, I have feedback on this, but
oh, sorry, first we must do
yeah.
clarifying questions
Okay.
from the commission and then public comment before discussion. Any clarifying questions?
I'm curious, Katrine, can you talk more about us providing feedback on the website? I thought that was a interesting addition.
Yes, so it was added number 6. Make recommendations for improving the city's public work website content to residents with regards to the specifically to transportation. That's and then when we discussed as the ad hoc subcommittee, Jackie Sebrian had some great ideas about education and different items that we could be doing with content for safe riding and walking and things like that. But this was just a topic that I think had been brought up to Sally before about a place where we could use some help, and it would be great to have some feedback of from a resident's perspective. What do you want to see there? How can we better communicate to residents?
Any further questions from the commission? Okay. Joanna, please call for public comment on this item.
For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, You may engage the raised hand feature, or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please fill out a speaker card from the back table, bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. Having no one in queue for public comment, I return the meeting to the chair.
Thank you. Okay, now we can do commission discussion.
Can I ask a question, Katrine? Is it going to be difficult to project the redlined onto our screens here?
I can pull it back up. Was that slide legible or should I try to make it bigger?
It was legible.
Okay, I will pull it back up.
I know you're bouncing a couple things over there.
Yes.
Perhaps we should take it point by point. Okay, so I will just read them without the updated versions, with the red line part. So the point 1 says advise the city council on the implementation of the transportation master plan. And the sub-bullets are annually evaluate and propose transportation projects to include in the 5-year capital improvement plan, which is in the fall.
Do we want to stop and just see?
Okay.
I have a comment on that one. I think that it is a good one to be more specific and say that we're going to do this on, to do this on an annual basis, because we've talked about this in past meetings, but sometimes if we're looking at a major project like Middle Avenue, and we just know, that's what happened several years ago, that there's not going to be enough money at the time in the budget to accomplish other key elements of it that would be ideal to complete. Like, for example, with Middle Avenue, repair the sidewalk gaps, close the sidewalk gaps there for pedestrians. We say, let's advocate for that in the 5-year capital improvement plan. And then it falls off our radar screen. So I think this is a good add. I think it's good to be clear that it's annually. I think it would be good to put on the plate and the agenda of the Complete Streets Commission to prepare comments or recommendations to the city council on inclusion of specific expenditures to support safety and transportation infrastructure in the 5-year capital improvement plan. I would just ask that maybe city staff, if this isn't too much to ask, to flag to us when it would be appropriate to include it on the agenda so that we as a commission submit the recommendations or our statement to the commission in a timely way. I don't exactly know which meeting, for example, that they would be considering a 5-year capital plan.
Yeah, and that's why I included fall in the parentheses. That was the feedback from our public works department, and that's good timing where we're still creating, like right now we're in budget season, it's too late. In the fall is when that work starts to begin. So that's the ideal timing for it. So yeah, we will, when we do the agenda setting meeting,
Great.
set the appropriate.
Thank you. Those are my comments on that item.
Okay, the second bullet point is advise and make recommendations on ongoing pilots such as the Neelan Park frontage parking, Blake Street temporary closure, and Coleman pilots.
I have a question on this one.
Yeah.
What are the metrics that we're using to guide us in advising and making recommendations for these projects?
Would you like me to answer that?
Yeah, that would be great.
So they're set within each pilot. So when staff brings a pilot to the Complete Streets, so this most recently happened for Coleman. So we gave you the evaluation criteria that we would be measuring. And so then after Coleman is in existence this summer, we'll be bringing back the data and presenting it to you for that evaluation and recommendation.
Thank you.
I have a comment on this bullet. So for this one, I don't want to I don't want to delete Middle Avenue Complete Streets project because there's a very key element of that project that has not been completed, but has been presented to the commission recently, which is the intersection improvements at Middle Avenue and El Camino Real. So my suggestion here is that there is one bullet that says advise and make recommendations on the Middle Avenue Complete Streets project, including intersection improvements at Middle Avenue and El Camino Real. And then there's a separate bullet that says advise and make recommendations on ongoing pilots, such as Nealon frontage parking and Blake Street temporary closure and Coleman pilots. The only thing there is I would take out the word ongoing, because I think if you leave it in, it restricts the commission to only advise on ongoing pilots, and there may be other pilots introduced in this year. So I would strike that word.
My question on that is the third bullet, non-ongoing projects, or which in this case would be Middlefield. And we could have an ongoing projects bullet point and a non-ongoing projects bullet point.
Yeah, we could do that. Well, you mean around the pilots or?
Well, just to
Oh.
make this third bullet point slightly more general to include potential other projects that we might see.
So you want to say like pilots and projects?
Can we, so I
Sure.
have a question about this, about why advise and make recommendations on the Middle Avenue Complete Streets project. Like, I liked sort of like, I don't mind, I can understand including the Middle Avenue thing, but I would include it among these other things. Because these other things, like the, Coleman pilot, like that's new. If anything, that should get higher billing than Middlefield, than Middle, which is already, so what I like the idea of consulting on ongoing projects that include these things, right? And then list out the specific ones we know are there, but I'm not sure why we would highlight why Middle gets its own thing and
Oh.
everything else gets to just be included.
Okay, well, maybe one solution then is that this,
I mean, Middle, not
it seems to me
Middlefield.
that we're talking about projects and we're talking about pilots, and they're two different things. So maybe the second bullet here says advise and make recommendations on ongoing projects, right? And then including Middle Avenue, Middlefield Road. I would include Santa Cruz Avenue because we know that that's a very high priority and we spent a lot of time on that last year and it's coming up this year. And just maybe end the bullet by just saying we're advising and making recommendations on ongoing projects. And the second bullet says advise and make recommendations on, pilots. If the word ongoing, I mean, we could say ongoing and future projects, including. Yeah, new and ongoing.
Yeah.
That's perfect. New and ongoing projects, new and ongoing pilots. That's probably what I would do. Okay. So it sounds like we're combining, the second bullet will now be about projects, and it will refer to Middle Avenue, Middlefield Road, Safe Streets project. And I would include Santa Cruz Avenue there because it's ongoing, new and ongoing, including, okay. And then the third bullet would be advise and make recommendations on new and ongoing pilots and include a list of the pilots we know about. And then you could remove the third bullet about Middlefield Road. Does that make sense to folks? Or? Yeah, okay.
I have a clarifying question.
Sure.
The Middlefield Road Safe Streets projects becomes part of the bullet,
Yeah.
the first bullet?
I'm gonna say it again. And also, I don't know if this is right. I'm just taking a stab at it. So please jump in. I'm not the writer of this, but
projects are in
Yeah.
one bullet and the
Pilots are in the
separate.
right.
Okay, got it.
So it's advise and make recommendations on new and ongoing projects, including the Middle Avenue Complete Streets project, comma, the Middlefield Road Safe Streets project, comma. I personally would add Santa Cruz Avenue Safety Study. I'm not sure exactly what that one's called. and then period. And then third bullet would be advise and make recommendations on new and ongoing pilots, including Elon Park, frontage parking, Blake Street temporary closure, and Coleman pilot.
You know what?
Does that make sense?
I bet you that the Santa Cruz thing, sorry.
Sure.
Actually, I say I bet you as if it isn't already codified somewhere. That the Santa Cruz thing is gonna become a pilot. Like, are some of those things gonna be piloted, the safety things, or are we just going straight to putting in the safety measures that were recommended? Which I'm all for, but.
I think there's going to be some outreach and design first, but then I believe they will just be put in because we have the grant for some refinement on the design and then implementation.
Right, okay. And it would just be a project, right?
One
Is that the
more-
distinction.
One more distinction to make. Would it be acceptable to write it as the Middle Avenue El Camino Real intersection? So as to clarify that it's not okay.
Is there anything we've forgotten to mention? I mean, as long as we are mentioning ongoing projects, can anyone think of
The Willow project? Is that on?
Willow? Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you. The Willow pedestrian and bike infrastructure project.
Also,
Improvement
Commissioner
project?
Rennie was just pointing out, the project by Sandhill that came out of the Hillview Walk audit. I believe there are 2 projects that came out of the Hillview Walk audit as well.
That's part of the Santa Cruz Avenue project.
Okay, I was thinking downtown. Okay. Do we
No,
wanna
oh, sorry,
spell those
sorry.
out?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. For the new commissioner. So the Santa Cruz Avenue safety study was from Santa Cruz, from University in downtown, all the way through the Sand Hill Road, including the intersection at Sand Hill and Oak, which is difficult. The intersection of Sand Hill and Santa Cruz, and the intersection of Sand Hill and Sharon. That was all encompassed in what was called like an umbrella Santa Cruz Avenue safety study. So yes, I agree about adding Willow. I think it was called Willow Bicycle and Pedestrian Improvement Project. That was a good add. Thank you. President.
This is a little nitty gritty, but as long as we're saying new and ongoing pilots and then listing 1, 2, 3 and Coleman pilots, I don't think we should use the word pilots twice. I think it would be Coleman traffic calming, I believe is.
Coleman Avenue, you could be really
Coleman Avenue
specific.
traffic
Coleman
calming, yeah.
Avenue. Traffic calming measures, yeah, that's good. No, it's good, it's good. It's good to be specific, partly because the work plan is approved by the city council. And I think it's helpful to us, honestly, just to define exactly what we're doing and be specific about it. And it's helpful to them to know.
Okay, any further comments on the first bullet point? Okay, Katrine, did you get an accurate summary of the discussion? Okay.
I think so. Thank you.
Okay, so number 2, advise and provide input to the city council on citywide transportation policies / programs. First bullet being evaluate citywide bike rack inventory and make recommendations. Bullet 2, advise on Vision Zero strategies and program implementation such as the Slow Streets program. And number 3, evaluate driveway stopping site distance policy. Any comments on any of these?
Bullet point 3, driveway stopping site distance policy. That feels new to me. Do we have?
This is a bit vestigial, actually. I do have a comment on that because when I guess Jackie will attest, when I first got in the commission, it was certainly a big part of our agendas in the past, or time we spent, was that the commission's only decision-making authority was with regard to approving the removal of parking spaces. So our agendas always contained someone who was asking that a parking space be removed or added in a particular road of Menlo Park. And at one point, the city council said, there was one of our decisions was repealed to the city council on Roble Avenue, and city council member said, why don't we have like a clear set of principles by which we can evaluate this, and can the city staff own it rather than it being debated within the Complete Streets Commission? And in parallel, they the EQC, the city, the same thing happened to EQC. The EQC was constantly approving like heritage tree removals. And the council was interested in like, well, could the EQC, could the staff be doing that with repeals to the EQC rather than that taking up so much of their agenda? So what happened is there was a prior member of the commission who said, oh, I'll, like write up a policy of like, here's the things to consider for the staff to consider when they're going to remove, a parking space or whatever, or like get one of these requests. And then Kevin Chen said, well, maybe the staff should write the policy and the commission can evaluate and approve it. And then sort of nothing happened. This is almost 2 years ago, say. And then I think nothing happened. Like I think the staff didn't have time to write the policy, and maybe I'm positive we didn't review anything. So I would go back to Azalea, because if the staff is reviewing, we haven't reviewed one of those in a while. So if the staff is reviewing them, no, okay.
So sorry.
Please go ahead. That's all I know. That's truly all I know.
That's really helpful context. I did initially have this in the red line to just remove it, but that wasn't accurate either.
Right.
And
right.
so, and when I discussed it, it's in our municipal code, that the
Yes.
complete streets. So it is
Okay.
kind of a big ordeal to get it changed.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
But
Okay.
when we discussed it, that ad hoc subcommittee, Jackie had a really good point of like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's why we need to leave it in the work plan, because it's still something we need to address kind of
Got it.
together.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So, but in a sense, this isn't really, if it's in the municipal code that we need to make those decisions, then I don't know if it should be phrased as evaluate the policy, because then I don't think a policy was drafted. So maybe this should just be changed to advise and provide input, something like decisions pertaining to parking spot removals, because that's what was in the code probably.
Well, I thought I understood that because we are listed as the source
Decider.
we're the deciders. I sort of was under the impression that if we decided to write a policy, that would answer the question for people.
Yes, that
Right,
was.
and then it wouldn't need to come each one before the Complete Streets Commission, because we would have done our job
Replaced it
and
with-
written the policy so that it's not swayed by like, whoever happens to be here. that
But I
night.
think what she's saying is that in the code, we remain the decider, so we can't really write a policy and sort of change the process. I will say, I'm sorry, I did misspeak, because I said we haven't done one of these in a while, but you guys might remember last summer, Kevin brought us some around the areas around Bohannon. Is that where the post office is?
That was the
Where
last
there
group.
was
Yeah.
like RV parking and there was site visibility issues. So we did do some last summer, yeah.
So I guess this bullet point implies that there will be a policy
Right.
written, which I think is distinct from the sort of written role of the Complete Streets Commission. So including
Right.
this as written, yeah, I think does imply that there will be a written policy at some point.
Yeah.
Whether we write it or somebody else writes it and we evaluate it.
Yeah.
So
Can we rephrase it to input on citywide transfer and then something like evaluate requests to remove or add parking spaces in the city of Menlo Park, or whatever, remove and add parking spaces.
Is that the same thing is that why we're evaluating driveway stopping site distance?
We aren't, I don't think we're doing that.
Okay.
So I'm correct about that. I think we had an intention to do it. It didn't happen.
that's the policy part, right?
Yeah, we never wrote a driveway stopping site distance policy. Like,
Okay.
the person on the commission was suggesting that we actually write like, if a car, if a car is parked 12 feet from an intersection, or there should be no parking for 15 feet. Like, he wanted to kind of codify it and make rules around it, which would be helpful. We haven't done that yet, so I don't know if we should, as Chair Eric Como said, I don't think we should phrase it that way. Maybe we just, I guess my suggestion would be that we just leave it like it's one of our responsibilities. And then maybe when we talk about subcommittees in the next meeting, we say, do we want to, maybe try to change that. And if someone does, or we want to, we can make it a subcommittee. I don't mean to sound bureaucratic about that. I just mean that like right at this very moment,
It's a lot to untangle.
I don't know if anyone's saying, wow, let's write that policy. Let's vote to put it on the work plan. Right?
Also, just based on our work with Kevin last year with the trucks on Bohannon, do we not already have that? I mean, he had some very specific, and maybe Katrina can speak to that.
Yes.
Like very specific.
Yes.
Like if
So-
you're looking right versus if you're looking left, there was a table I think he
There-
had in one of the
there-
PowerPoints.
There are standards. I don't remember if they're state or federal, but there
I
are
think they were
standards.
not city standards, right? So
Yeah,
it's
they're
not
not.
like a Menlo Park policy.
No, that's exactly right.
So what we would be talking about is our own Menlo Park policy that might differ in some way from an existing state policy that we do already adhere to.
Well, the state policies weren't, I mean, weren't like completely comprehensive, like it does have guidelines around, I think, feet of intersections and feet from, maybe not feet from driveways, maybe, but I do remember that the policy was going to include language around, because we had evaluated so many parking space requests, just language around like, things to consider, right? Like a classic is Roble, which is that there was this big obstruction that made it very hard to see, like a big bush. And that's one of the reasons we were like, anyway, I'm gonna get into the details, but anyway, there are other people residents who came up on Roble, this is one of the reasons it was appealed, and said there is basically no parking on the street. And if you remove one space, it's really gonna affect us, right? So there were just things to consider that weren't just like a factual guideline around number of feet. So
And one
yeah.
more point to clarify, so the Muni Code designates the Complete Streets Commission as the entity that needs to approve the removal of parking.
Okay,
if it's-
removal.
And if it's over a certain number of spaces.
that's right, 5, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, that's
And
correct.
so if it's less than that, then
Yeah.
city staff is able to, like, if it's just a little bit of red curb on either side of the driveway, that's something that we do handle. But it's when it gets to be that much of an impact, then it comes to you.
Oh, okay. Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay, well, maybe we just, if we can leave it as, can you, Katrine, maybe look at the municipal code and kind of boil down what our responsibility is and just stick it in there as a bullet? Can we
Would
just-
it be helpful if I read out the municipal code?
Sure.
Oh, just that paragraph. So the Complete Streets Commission is authorized to designate no parking zones adjacent to driveways, intersections, crosswalks, and other locations at up to 5 spaces per location if the Complete Streets Commission determines that parked vehicles are obstructing visibility, interfering with reasonable ingress and egress, or obstructing safe transit or bike lane travel requiring striping adjustments, except where the location is within the area designated as the downtown station area in the El Camino Real Downtown Specific Plan, which shall be limited to 3 spaces per location.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so, well, thank you. I mean, I think we could just boil that down to designate no parking zones as per the municipal code. You know what I mean? I mean, that's basically what that is.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Yeah. This was.
Of up to 3 to 5 spaces. You could say that if you wanted to show that we
Yeah.
weren't like gonna wipe out all parking on Middle Avenue.
And Joanna,
again.
that's not, is that the same for residential and commercial?
It was, I believe. it is.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Joanna.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So that completes bullet point number 2.
Oh, no, I have something.
Oh, sorry.
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 Oh, sorry about that. Evaluate citywide bike recommendatory, make recommendations. I'm only thinking of an edit here because I know that there are city council members who are aware that we're working on this. I wouldn't want to just freeze the language because a lot of progress was made and you guys did a great job. So maybe it's something like make recommendations to the city council on citywide bike recommendatory, because you've already evaluated, you've already collected a lot of data, et cetera, et cetera. So I think just that quick thing.
That's a good
And
one.
then one thing I talked about with Katrine quickly before the meeting on advise on Vision Zero strategies and program implementation is I would revise this, I can explain why, to say, excuse me, I have to find it here. Yeah, okay. Advise on Vision Zero strategies and program implementation. Including applying Vision Zero's data-driven approach to the Slow Streets program. And the reason I say that is that having worked on the Vision Zero strategy thing, I think one of the great things about Vision Zero, it was really, really clear what the top two priorities were. And one was high crash corridors and one was school zones. And finding systemic solutions where possible across the city on something like a school zone, trying to approach things in a more systemic way and obviously more data-driven way, data driving your priorities, right? So what constitutes a high crash corridor? Oh, wow, we have a lot of data showing that this is one of the streets with the most collisions. So for me, I was concerned when it says advise on Vision Zero strategies and program implementation, such as Slow Streets program, it sort of makes it sound like the Slow Streets program is a Vision Zero strategy and priority. And it wasn't, the Vision Zero strategy that the council passed didn't really say that. So I don't want to have any confusion. So for me, I would just say advise. And we talked, so when, sorry, Katrina and I talked about that, we were like, oh, what we really meant by that was that we want to apply the Vision Zero approach that was adopted, which is data-driven, to the Slow Streets program. So again, my recommendation would say advise on Vision Zero strategies and program implementation and apply Vision Zero's data, including applying Vision Zero's data-driven approach to, you could say, the development of the Slow Streets program, because it's being developed this year, right? Does that sound right? Okay, so after implementation, including applying Vision Zero's data-driven approach to the development of the Slow Streets program.
Development and implementation? Or
Oh, no,
development
sorry.
and-
So advise on Vision Zero strategies and program implementation. And then including applying Vision Zero's data-driven approach to the development of the Slow Streets program. I think that separates them in the appropriate way because advising on Vision Zero strategies and program implementation is truly about high crash corridors and school zones. And then separate and apart from that, we want to, the Slow Streets program is a new program under development, and we're indicating that we want to take the data-driven approach that the council approved for Vision Zero and apply it to the development of that. So we're going to use a data-driven approach on Slow Streets. Does that feel good to everyone? I think that's a bit clearer. So, okay, that's all I wanted to say. And then that's it. That's all I wanted to say.
I had a question about the elimination of bullet point 4, advise on implementation of Senate Bill 413 about the daylighting. Is there a reason that that was eliminated?
Yes, it was written, I think, it came in a year ago. And I think it was before it had been evaluated exactly how AB 413 was going to be enforced. And that's primarily done by our parking enforcement by the police department. So it was just a little bit out of the purview of
Is there more work to be done on the
There was.
daylighting law outside of the police?
There will be additional work done by our maintenance team on providing more markings
Okay,
as resources are available.
but decision-making is basically just all, okay. Okay. All right, any further questions or comments on number 2? Okay, so I can summarize that one, I guess.
I think
Oh,
I've
you've
got it. Yeah.
Okay. So number 3, support the implementation of safe route strategies. First bullet point, participate in the Safe Routes to School Task Force and advocate for community engagement and education, program continuity, and design implementation. Number 2, support projects serving community-based destinations, for example, schools, workshop, and recreation.
Okay, I think maybe Meredith, I'm sorry, Commissioner Bergen Bailey can help a bit with this, but the first bullet seems a bit meaningless to me. unless this is truly what our role is in relation to the Safe Routes to School Task Force. I have not been on the Safe Routes to School Task Force, but it says participate in the Safe Routes to School Task Force, which we know we do by virtue of the fact that Matthew and Meredith already belonged to the task force before they came to the commission, so they attend the meetings, right? But and advocate for community engagement and education, program continuity and design implementation. Does that refer to community engagement education program around safe routes generally or around the task force work? Because if it's around the task force work, I don't think that's accurate. I don't feel like I've ever advocated for community engagement around the task force work because I don't know what it is. So I'm just wondering, maybe that's a separate bullet that just goes to, maybe the second bullet is advocate for community engagement, education program and implementation of safe routes. But what do you think, Meredith? I just don't see how that's connected to Safe Routes to School Task Force.
What if, I totally hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
What if it is advocate for community engagement and education, program continuity and design implication?
Alone.
Or like such as participating in the Safe Routes Task Force, right? Safe Routes to School Task Force. So like that becomes one of the ways in which we advocate for community engagement, education program continuity and design implicate. So it's not a separate thing. That's one of the ways we do it. And it could be in there that we like, that somebody is, like how the city council has liaisons that, I don't know if we're allowed to, but that we would have a specific liaison who could go to those meetings.
I guess my question is, this probably directly addresses the council priority of safe routes. And my only comment on that is I like sort of emphasizing the safe routes to school aspect of it, right? So, which is like a phrasing question, but I don't have a better phrase.
I like the phrasing that kind of reverses it so that it's advocating, educating, such as safe routes to school. I think that works.
Such as participating, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right.
The other thing that's kind of bothering me is the first thing, support the implementation of safe route strategies. It just feels really vague. Can we say something like, support the implementation of safe routes, like improvements and strategies or programs and strategies? It's just strategies on its own. Doesn't feel like anything's really happening. And I think that we do this, we have this in the back of our mind all the time. Like almost every meeting, we're looking at a safe route program or project or suggestion for improving one. And where, so it's not just really strategies, it's actual.
Are you saying that it's actual infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, we could support the implementation. Yeah, it could be of safe routes.
Like improved, instead of strategies, improved
Infrastructure
infrastructure?
improvements
Mhm.
and strategies or
Mhm.
something. But I think it has to have a little more teeth.
Mhm. I like the idea of saying infrastructure. I mean, putting on my safe routes hat now.
Yeah,
That's what the group kind of perpetually is asking for.
Yeah,
Is
okay,
actual
cool.
infrastructure changes.
So if it says support the implementation of safe routes, infrastructure improvements and strategies. Okay. And then the first bullet with Jackie was advocate for community engagement and education, program continuity and design implementation such as, or including participating in the Safe Routes to School Task Force. I will say, and I'm sorry, but I don't exactly know what program continuity and design implementation means in relation to Safe Routes to School. But
Well, there is
Maybe that's just me.
a safe routes coordinator. Sorry, there is a safe routes coordinator, and once every however often we evaluate how the program's going.
yeah,
So it does come before the commission, and we get a presentation on the things they're doing, and we get to ask questions and then decide, and
okay,
make suggestions. So I guess
comfortable with
that is sort
that's
of,
where that comes from.
yeah.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that.
I was just gonna, so number 2 and 3 seem very similar to me. I don't know if those actually could be combined because we're talking about policies and programs on number 2, which Safe Routes to School
Yeah.
is, so.
That's a good point.
Yeah. maybe they can be.
I mean, can we
combined.
still keep the bullet of, if we combine 2 and 3, can we still keep the title of 3 as a bullet? Support the implementation of safe routes, infrastructure improvements and strategies? Because I think I do like the infrastructure improvements. Or we could say advocate for community infrastructure improvements, comma, community engagement. But anyway, that's a good idea to merge. Because it is it is a citywide program, safe routes. Okay.
Any thoughts? Any thoughts on that? Okay. Yes, I think keeping all the bullet points, but I think the question is whether we include the title of 3 as a separate bullet point or merge it into the first bullet point of what is now 3, which would make for a very long bullet point, but
I can have sub bullets like we've
Okay.
done on, I guess you can't see my edits, but yeah, we can indent it so that the whole thing just goes in one. So
Oh, I see.
Okay,
Yeah, they all
that'd
get
be
invented.
perfect.
Okay, yeah, that works.
I think in that case, yeah, definitely adding that infrastructure piece would really make that concrete as a bullet point. And then keeping the other 2 bullet points as existing, but as sub bullet points. Okay.
I'm sorry, is this bullet point, the last one here, support project serving? Is the meaning there support project serving routes too?
There was discussion about safe routes, not just like the phrase safe routes.
Yeah,
Being more than encompassing only schools. But
yeah.
yeah, reduction of vehicle miles traveled, like all that, to and from kind of popular destinations.
There is a vehicle miles travel.
Where routes would be, right? So we're supporting routes that serve community-based destinations.
But they're not routes yet. Like,
Oh, okay, so just leave it the way it is. Okay, thank you. I wasn't clear on the
That's
meaning.
right.
Okay,
I
perfect.
think there should be a hyphen between community and based.
That's true.
I don't know if there could be something added for instead of just Menlo Park, some destinations within and regionally to
oh, yeah.
like interconnectedness between the cities and
Mhm.
such.
Mhm.
I don't know exactly how.
Community-based and regional destinations.
Mhm.
Does community refer
A la
exclusively
the,
to our
you know,
Menlo Park community?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
So support projects serving community and regional based destinations?
Community-based and regional.
Yes, sorry.
With a hyphen.
They can both have hyphens. Okay.
I'm good on 2/3.
Okay, further I'm going to say last call, but we can always come back to it.
Okay.
The last call. Number 4, provide guidance to the Planning Commission of what CSC generally recommends in projects within Menlo Park.
Is this just reporting to the planning commission, kind of like what we've talked about and or decided?
No. So, it's sort of new, but, because in the past, projects have come to us and we have offered a panoply of suggestions around like bike access and how are the cars and the bikes going to interact at this spot. And, my understanding is that planning commission, felt like that was their area. And so what I think what the discussion was is that like we have these things that we think developments need to include, right? And so it's really coming up with like, what do we think Because if it's coming through the planning commission and then it's coming to us and we're trying to like revamp it for things, then we think the planning commission isn't catching the things that, right? And so what would we like to see? Is it that we want to make sure it has, clear pedestrian infrastructure and access to bikes to like, what are the things that we would want to see? And then kind of offer that as a, guidance for planning commission, however that may be received. I think that was the reasoning behind it, but.
And I've prepared a couple slides to make sure you guys understand the review that already happens, just so we can just make sure you know what we're doing and therefore it's more streamlined. So I have a couple slides. So the Community Development Department is a department that's at the level of Public Works. It's just a different department within the city. And their job is to lead the development review process. And so Public Works supports the development review process. So, and community development, this is just from our city website. Broadly, their purview is throughout the city to do building permits, plan check, inspections, affordable housing assistance and monitoring, long-range land use plans, development review, and environmental analysis. So it's not all they do, but development review is something that they lead. And then they come to Public Works for support. So within Public Works, we have two teams that look at development review. Our transportation team looks at it and a land development team looks at it. And I have two slides on which each team is looking in their checklist that they review as they're going through a development. So our transportation team is looking for primarily the consistency with the plans and policies of the city. So that includes our circulation element, our transportation master plan, our Vision Zero action plan, and then the El Camino Real and Downtown Specific plan. And then we're also looking at site access and circulation, intersection control, site distance, those elements of just what's on the site plan for the development. And then compliance with city guidelines. And those guidelines are the transportation impact analysis, the TDM policy, and looking at parking in the driveways. Additionally, there's a land development team in Public Works, and they're reviewing projects. They're looking at the sidewalks and the pedestrian facilities, and they're evaluating that sidewalk continuity and design. They're looking at ADA accessibility and compliance. This is getting a little bit more into where they're evaluating the design, whereas the transportation team is a little bit earlier in the planning process, roughly. The land development is also looking at the driveway locations, emergency vehicle access and easements, roadway design improvements. If that development is going to have impact on our road conditions, they're looking at that. And then they're also considering things that fall within the sustainability and green infrastructure umbrella, like tree planting, green infrastructure. And the land development, to be clear, does a lot more than this. This is just the list of the transportation things that they're reviewing on a project. Mm-hmm.
Does this all happen before it goes to the planning commission?
It's
Or
kind
like-
of throughout. So if
Okay.
you roughly think about a project having the planning stage, the design phase, and the implementation phase, it's there are different things they're looking for at each stage, but it's yeah.
So it strikes me that what the purpose of this, of the way for the subcommittee's language in 4 currently, was to, instead of positioning the commission as going in front of planning every time, there's a development project considered and saying, hey, here's how we think you should change or consider the design, proactively providing the planning commission with a set of recommendations of how we think or how we think what they should be looking for when the planning commission's evaluating development projects to promote, safe transportation infrastructure and alternative modes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So was that the intention of the subcommittee, which was instead of obligating us to sort of, get into the mix of the process and making comments to the planning commission every time they consider a development project, we would be proactively giving them like a set of recommendations of guidance around how we would recommend promoting safe transportation infrastructure and alternative modes.
Maybe as you were talking about it, I'm wondering if the piece of it isn't the planning commission, but like the project, right? That they're kind of going through it and the planning commission is saying, do these things. And you guys are saying, do these things. And then they come to complete street. So I'm actually not, I feel like I'm not 100% certain who it was that wanted it to be different than how we were doing it. But it was wrapped up in, like, I know the planning commission was an element of it. I'm just not sure if they were the ones asking for it. So the question is, like, when I look at what the city's already doing, I mean, I don't know, there's a part that feels like when projects have come before us, we have looked at it and asked questions about, like, why is this 3 lanes, right? Why is this, a super highway? Why is this way? And why aren't we doing it this way? So I guess I'm trying to figure out, like, is there a role for complete streets? I felt like, we've highlighted some things, but also it's clear that somewhere along the line, somebody would like it to be different. And I guess figuring out exactly what different, that I think I'm muddy about.
Yeah, so if you, on your screen, the 4 that is struck out was how it was written last year. And I received feedback that the way this was worded was just misleading. And because that we weren't, the city staff wasn't necessarily like bringing projects to you to provide input and recommendations. So it was kind of this inconsistent.
It was aspirational.
Right. And so we did go back, and this isn't exactly the same as providing guidelines to the commission, but the language that is written in 5 was my attempt to kind of capture a step, because we wrestled with it internally and talked about it and landed on this language, because if something isn't consistent with our master plans, with the general plan circulation element, we felt like that was a good time, that it would be appropriate to actually bring it to you. Right. But the flip side is that if it is consistent with the plans of our circulation element that we have, that then we wouldn't bring it because it's consistent with the plan, so that there's a little bit less discretion in that regard.
Katrina, can I ask, this feels like the things we've talked about so far have been things that we kind of proactively come at. This feels like something a little bit more passive, where it would come to us.
That's true.
So I think my question is, does it belong in the work plan? Because to me, the work plan is something that's more proactive. And I'm just also thinking in the year that I've been a commissioner, I don't think we've ever, and you guys have been on longer, maybe you can speak to some experience.
Very many.
I think I can speak to this quickly.
Okay.
So in May of 2022, Facebook, the planning staff, like Kyle, the planning actual team, came to one of our commission meetings with the people at Facebook who are in charge of government relations and the architects and designers of their Willow Village campus. And they were like, hey, Complete Streets Commission, we wanted to show you the design of our Willow Village campus and just get your feedback. And so we looked at it really carefully. We did have some feedback. Katie Brucey in particular had some very specific feedback about bike lanes and this one-way thing and how much room was there in the bike lane, was it protected, et cetera, et cetera. Some very good specific feedback. And we were told, like, thanks for your feedback. We're not under obligation to take it, right, and change the design, because Complete Streets doesn't have the authority, right, to decide how things should, how these major development projects should accommodate safe infrastructure. But, thank you for the feedback. We're going to consider it. And so after that, I said to Kevin, who was our staff person, I said, is there a way that we could have like a specific role within the planning commission process of looking at being able to comment on some of these major projects? And he basically said, not really, because that's another meeting, and it's another thing to slow down these major development projects. So This was, and so we didn't, as far as I know, 3 years after that, we haven't commented on a major development project. Like Spring Line didn't come in here, Park Line, is that what it's called? Isn't coming in here, the SRI project. We're not in the loop currently. Did not come to us. I mean, you may have gone to a council meeting. I went to city council meeting too, but they didn't come in to us. So this was, last year, our discussion on the work plan was, we'd like to have a role. What could it be? We all kind of felt like, why don't we have a little bit of a voice there? Because the planning commission's looking at it on so many levels and attributes that, why would they necessarily, in the course of a long meeting with a bunch of like designers and developers, be as honed in on the complete streets as we would be. So you'll see that in the intro there, the second sentence says it provides, meaning the commission, it provides transportation-related input on major land use, because we wanted it to. We thought it should, and we wanted to find a way that it could. And then the language, which was last year's number 4, provide input and recommendations on the cities by evaluating them based on this and this, was again our saying we should do this. We knew that the city wasn't going to, book every developer that comes in onto the Complete Streets Commission agenda, but we wanted to last year work with staff to find a way where we could have regular input. So that's where we are. If we think that we don't think it's realistic for us to have regular input or whatever, it looks like there's 2 options being proposed. 4.
Or you
here.
could do both. I'm not saying,
Yeah.
I could see they're
Yeah.
different.
Like the first 4 is, okay, we're not gonna be part of that process, but we'll proactively provide a set of recommendations that the planning committee can consider. And then 5 seems to me to say, we really would like to be part of this, but the way it's gonna work is that staff's gonna flag to us when you see that, if there's a major land use and development project that is not consistent, right, with the city's master plan and general plan circulation element, you know what? We do want to bring that to the Complete Streets Commission. The only thing I would say about 5 is that realistically going to happen? Like, is your staff going to be like evaluating these? These are huge, like 80-page documents, right? To see if it's consistent, or is planning going to flag that to you? Like,
that's part of our, staff is looking at all these anyways. And so that provides an extra clarification of when we bring it to you. And right now, as 4 is written, it doesn't specify when it gets brought to you or not. So this adds language to make it clear when it does get brought to the Complete Streets Commission.
I think 4 and 5 are completely different approaches. Completely different. One is like, hi, planning commission, here's our top 10, always evaluate projects based on this complete streets things. That's what it sounds like to me.
Right. I mean, old 4. So old crossed out 4 didn't say when it was
No,
going
it
to get
didn't.
brought to you. Right.
And it didn't say anything. It just said we want to be doing, that's why I said
Right.
aspirational.
Yeah.
We want to develop this year.
Whereas 5 defines when it will happen. And
Right.
we wouldn't be bringing it to you if we didn't plan on doing good on it.
So I have a question, which is, are developments allowed to not be consistent with the city's master plans and general circulation element?
So the example, and I might not get the exact details right, but I have a feeling that that's why the Facebook one had come before you. And it had something to do with a Paseo not lining up with the circulation element. And it was in a different spot that was on the plan, something like that. So
They
that
were
was actually,
moving a street.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were changing the direction of the end of Hamilton so that it went this way and not this way.
Yeah.
And yeah.
and so that, I think that's the type of thing that then I think it even needs to get reviewed by council. So it would come to you first for a recommendation and then go to council.
My question would be, if we completely deleted current 4 and current 5, a variety of groups could still bring things to us on an as-needed basis. It would just not be in our work plan. And again, to me, I think it's kind of proactive versus passive. But I think I would be actually comfortable eliminating 4 and 5, but being open to people bringing things to us that need to be seen. I can be convinced otherwise. I don't know if there's any strong opinions.
I have a strong opinion. I think 5 should be in there. I think 4 is possibly something that's just going to be not utilized by planning. And I worry that we're going to put time into it. Like, here's our set of recommendations, and then they're just going to forget about it. And then, but I like 5. If you feel that it seems to me the way it might work from the staff perspective is if the planning team knows that if their major land use project or development is not consistent with X and Y, they're going to flag it to you, it's not on your shoulders, and then you'll bring it to us. That seems like a good process because there's something wrong, right? And it pertains to what this commission's focused on. And so I think that 5 should stand. The only thing I have with 5, which I'm not suggesting we change language or change the proposal, but is that, you know, this commission should be pushing the city to do as much as it possibly can, right? Around safety of streets and promotion of alternative modes of transportation. So I look at 5 and I think, but what if downtown, some developer comes up with something for downtown that hits the master plan, but man, it could be so much better when it comes to bike lanes, or wow, they should really go for it when it comes to better sidewalks, or, you know, sidewalks that go to these places that we know elder people, you know, travel from, like on Menlo, whatever that avenue is, University Avenue. I want us to push. So I don't know. I think this is very solid because it flags when there's something inconsistent and we can jump in. And I don't know if I'd put more into the work plan, but I guess I'd ask, you know, I don't know. I think I'd suggest to this group, whether it's on the commission or as individuals, that we pay close attention. And in my opinion, it really is to major land use development projects. I think we have to be focused and push and push some of the developers and make comments and advocate to city council, et cetera, and maybe the planning commission too, around could we be doing more here? You know, more than just maybe the city's plan requires, because there's an opportunity to, and it would make this a lot better. I'm not sure how I'd work that in here, but that's my point of view.
So you're okay with 5 as stands as far as wording?
Yes.
Okay, works for me.
Should we put who we would provide the input and recommendations to? And then maybe the timing of it. So for example, the Ravenswood School, Housing for Teachers, the Sheridan Project.
Yeah, that's a really
like
good
the-
example.
Like the sequel that happened, basically the intersections and stuff that they study were actually not where the traffic actually was. So to get ahead of it enough to be like, we're the local knowledge, you should look at these spots or something like that. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good example.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the way you've defined what triggers you're bringing it to us would encompass that. Like, I'm not as familiar with the flood school, was it flood school project, but maybe that meant that it was out of, it didn't, was inconsistent with the master plan and the circulation on it. Maybe that would have been a trigger. I don't know enough about the project. I mean, if you think like Joanna, you know, Azalea, if you as a team, you feel like this framework will capture instances of where it'd be useful for this commission to have a voice weigh in and say, hey, this isn't consistent with the city master plan for transportation, and we think you should be doing more, and here's what it is. If you think that that's the correct trigger, we trust you, because I don't know what is the correct trigger.
I mean, wanted to offer sort of like a piece of like more like procedural and timeline as well, and we can probably do a little bit research ourselves, is that most of these development projects that's large in scale do have to go through EIR, and we do have to time it right to bring it to this commission, because the role that you will play during that EIR may be different, but we will have to go back to do a little bit research to identify what that is.
I appreciate that, because honestly, that's what's kind of pushed us out of the process, honestly, is that the timeline gets really tight and there are so many hoops. And obviously Menlo Park wants to be a city that developers want to work with, and they don't have to, you know, add a bunch more meetings and stretch out the process. So I think that's what's, what's prevented us from having a voice.
So I took the note that we will go back for 4, 5, and maybe add language about timeline. Is that consistent with what? did
Sure.
follow that
I mean, if
correctly?
anyone agrees, I don't want to be the only one.
Yeah. And then are we removing 4 that's not
Yeah.
struck out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that okay with everyone? Okay.
think someone would need to volunteer to do it.
Yeah,
for it
we
to
have
be on the work plan.
subcommittee. Yeah.
So. Be a subcommittee,
Mhm.
but that's next month.
Yes.
Okay, any further comment on 5 as it stands? So we'll wait for the information next month, next meeting. So number 6. Make recommendations for improving the city's public works website content to residents with regards to transportation programs and policies. The bullet point include recommendations for outreach topics on projects and educational content for safe riding and walking.
I read this and think to myself, I guess from the experience of Athena and Meredith working on the bike rack project last year, that this feels like a focused subcommittee project to me, a little bit less than it does a commission, like everyone on the commission focusing on this, because I think this requires a bit of a deep dive. And I think that the folks who would be working on it would kind of have to get in the mindset of, okay, we're gonna really roll up our sleeves and look at this website and like a certain section of pages, really just dive in and say, is it accomplishing the goal? So that's my 2 cents.
Can I add a comment? So what if instead of an item number on the work plan, it becomes a sub-bullet point to education in the Safe Route to School Task Force place?
That's
So
great.
that looking at the content specifically on anyway, what if it becomes
nice.
a subheading of the education component? Because I think that was sort of the vein in which we had the conversation, because I noticed some things that Atherton was doing that,
Great.
like maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't, but
Mhm,
they were
mhm,
putting
mhm.
up signs to be like, you can't drive over the double yellow lines. People need a refresher course sometimes.
What do
And
they have?
I do anticipate there would probably be some overlap. I like Commissioner Seabrand's suggestion. There might be some overlap as well between the Public Works website and the Safe Routes to School website as well, as far as education.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
I really like the portion talking about like updates on projects, I think is something the residents will be very interested in as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. I think that the city staff puts time into updating the project pages, and I think it would be great if we had more awareness that they were there, and that they were updated. I was impressed this year when you guys would sort of jump onto the Middle Avenue page and update it, and I think it'd be good for residents to know.
Right.
Sorry, were
Wondering,
you?
like that also sounds like that almost sounds like a separate little sort of subcommittee looking at, right? Like whether you're looking at in conjunction with staff, like looking at the outreach for specific projects and making recommendations, but I don't know that staff wants to go into that much stuff with us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that would be really worthwhile if people dove into it and then really came up with something and shared it with you. Like really did the elbow grease and then shared it with staff. I think that would be helpful. I wouldn't suggest a staff person be on the subcommittee, you know what I mean? Like, I think this would have to be. As we're talking about it, because we did mention the data-driven approach for Vision Zero. I mean, one thing for the subcommittee to consider, I think, is in working with staff, like how just transparent or proactive does staff want to be, the city want to be in terms of sharing data with residents. I know we do it in these meetings. Like, it was funny because I had to go back and look at the original Middle Avenue meeting, and I was like, wow, we shared a lot of information, very transparently in the Complete Streets Commission meetings around Middle Avenue and the speeds and the traffic and all that kind of stuff. But would it be helpful for those who aren't sort of dialing into the meetings or whatever to post that to some of the website content? It might be if we're making decisions that are data driven, it might be a good idea to share some data. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Is the data from the Berkeley, or where does that actually come from?
Okay, so some of it is city generated.
Okay.
You can talk to that, yeah.
Yeah, I think Sally's mostly referring to our counts data, which I believe does get pushed out, but again, it might be more of the organization. Like it's out there, it's on the city website, but it's buried and hard to find. And so it might be a matter of also just making sure things are more visible
Yeah,
and navigation is,
easier.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So going back to this document, so we're advocating for, we're proposing moving number 6 into a sub bullet point associated with number 3, or I guess number 2 and 3 are now merged.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah.
so it'll go
We're
along.
going deep on sub bullets, but I think I've got it.
Yeah.
So would
I
that
think
be
you do.
under the safe routes to school bullet
Yeah,
point
so-
or under the slow streets bullet point?
I have
Safe
it.
routes.
So what I did was you know what, let me just share what my draft with you.
Oh, wow, we're gonna see
The messy real time,
shaping up.
it's going pretty well. So, there we
Yep.
go.
That's what I thought you were doing, yep. So she's making sub bullets underneath to support the implementation. of
This
safe
is a
routes, yeah.
4th level sub bullet.
I mean, I might clean it up a little bit, but so yeah, so safe routes becomes a bullet under 2.
Mhm.
And then an
Right.
example of implementation
Right.
of safe routes is
Yeah, yeah.
advocating for community engagement and education, which safe routes is one of them. But then parallel to that would also be the website content.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So then so the other sub bullet, including recommendations for outreach topics on projects, I wonder if that should go underneath number 1. Because when we talk about those projects, that would really be the place to talk about that. And then you're one sub bullet less.
Or you could just clarify what you mean by projects, like include recommendations for outreach topics on, sorry, the, police streets
Oh, I
projects.
see. For outreach topics on projects and educational content for safe.
Is that what you
But I
meant by
think
that
we
bullet,
had-
that it was outreach topics on complete street projects? Is that what that means?
No, I think that was just something I made up today. I don't
Alright.
think that's what we meant when we wrote it.
Oh,
It
okay,
just-
okay.
That's what, okay. I need to read it more carefully.
Okay, I see what you did. Do you want to make any changes?
Yeah, okay, so I think we should see how this goes with us making recommendations to the city website for complete streets, like safe routes related projects. And if we find that we're super invested in it, I'm certain that we can make we can whip something up that goes with the work plan and another subcommittee that looks at other aspects of our communication process. But I bet for the purpose of the work plan, we can decide to just try it with the safe routes education content and see how that goes. And then we're not assigning ourselves a whole extra giant task. Anyway.
So Athena, I think you'll be sorry, Chair Erkenos, you'll be the one to present this to the council, work plan to the council.
I think,
And that's the one that's on the consent calendar.
I think they just
Oh, that's right. we
look
talked
at
about
it
this. Yeah,
and
okay.
have
I just
questions.
want- okay. I just want to make sure that you felt comfortable with the way it was. Okay.
Yeah, I think There's a lot of red on this document.
Yeah, we can look at it when it's all
Yeah,
set.
I
and
think
Yeah,
that
final
perhaps-
changes.
Yeah, well, I'll be bringing
Yeah.
it back again next month, so.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
That's my comment. on
I do think
these
that-
sub-bullets.
And some, the rule of you don't necessarily need a sub-bullet if there's only one, so that could just become part of B, just 2 sentences.
Yeah, or you can sort of say, let's say, make recommendations to business policy. I mean, it could be something like, right, make what chief residents with a focus on outreach and focus on outreach and content about safe riding and walking.
So cutting projects.
Oh, or you can just do it the way you're doing it, which is include, yeah, just do it like that. Just do it like that. It's
Yeah.
actually a little easier to read when it's all together.
And I think this is really kind of encapsulating what the goal is, which is to maybe to recommend improvements to the website, but start with recommendations
Right.
for safe routes type
Right.
things.
Where would and maybe this is the right place to put it, like the feedback loop, like how do we facilitate feedback from the public? There was the Berkeley study that uses street stories that you can put accidents and near misses and all that stuff, which
Uh-huh.
goes beyond the Vision Zero plan of actual fatalities and stuff like that, which I think is a precursor to the Berkeley thing's a precursor to
Yes.
actual fatalities. So I hear education, so that's, they can educate us as much as we can educate them, I always think so.
Mm.
And it
I like that
empowers,
a lot.
and empowers the community to be a part of it, and community engagement and such, so. I don't know how to write that in if this is the right place,
Street
but
Stories from the edge, right? Maybe there's a link right to it.
I mean, I think that's a really good idea. I'm just wondering, wait 1 second. Include recreation, Irish shopping spots. I mean, I hate to add more language, but I mean, you could do a C there, 3C, or whatever that is. Support the implementation of safe routes, C, and say something like, what is the gist of what you're saying, like promote or sort of advertise means to, so what would be the outcome that you would be going for, Kevin, there? Would it be that we do something that enables more people in Menlo Park to become aware of how to report accidents, and then they do?
correct. Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, I like that a lot. So, because I didn't suggest it, do you have like, if you had a C there, which was that goal, what would it say,
Go ahead.
Why, I guess my question is, if it already says we're trying to make recommendations to the website, content to residents with regards to transportation programs, include recommendations for outreach topics on projects, okay, and educational content. I guess I wonder, wouldn't it just fit in, like, be as part of this content?
Well, it could, but I don't know if you're saying put this on the website. You might be saying, like, is that where you're?
I don't, if this is, I'm
No, this is a good idea.
totally new,
I
I
think
just
we
don't know if
should,
this is the appropriate, yeah.
maybe it is like, maybe it's, hold on a second. I think maybe it's something general like, develop, wait 1 second.
What,
Increase like, develop an approach to increase public awareness of reporting bike and ped collisions, right?
Or near misses.
Or near misses.
I think the near miss part's important.
Okay, near
Right.
misses, and then say something like potentially putting a reporting mechanism on the website.
that seems
like-
really specific.
Yeah, I like everything before the comma.
Whatever, you
As
guys, you guys,
written.
Oh,
please edit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think this is,
of how to report. I think we're just saying public awareness of how to report near misses and collisions, yeah. Is that where you want to stop?
Well, I think, if it's a collision, it will have a reporting mechanism, but if it's a near miss, it doesn't.
But
Yeah.
I don't
But
know
I
if people
think
are
that-
aware.
well, I think people are aware, but I think people are unwilling to necessarily like make a police report for
Yeah,
things
I was just
when they're
thinking-
like not necessarily the most, physically impactful things, but
I
we still want
know,
that data.
I know of at least, I want to say 3 bike car accidents that I've just heard about because of being in the biking community, not because they were reported.
So how about how and why? You know, like we're sort of also convincing them why
Right.
it's important to do it.
But also like that, yeah. I just, yeah. It feels like that's that's part of like the education.
I guess by stating
Element.
it, we were stating an intent that that's what, something we want to accomplish.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you wanted to take the minimum number of words on the page sort of approach, you could put this under Part B, educational content for safe riding, walking, and reporting of dangerous situations.
Right. But yeah.
But, or we could keep it separate as its own thing,
Well,
which
the only thing that's different though is that
emphasizes it.
I think the key to the C here is develop an approach to increase public awareness. I don't know. I mean, we can look at it again next time, I guess, and see which one, if we think that.
Well, what would we be doing outside of like putting, I guess part of me is trying to figure out what would that look like besides putting it on the website?
Okay.
Like,
so we
I don't
combine it with G.
know.
I mean, it could be school newsletters, it could be
Right.
Council members' email, also newsletters. I think there's a couple,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
I mean, if you want to go the
Yeah.
distance, it's like develop a campaign.
Oh, yeah, no, I like.
C could be develop a campaign to increase public awareness. That's much more concrete. Do that.
Ooh, there you go.
Or develop an outreach strategy.
Oh, I like that. That doesn't sound so scary.
And outreach.
I'm just a little curious. Are there any other cities that do things like this, reporting of near misses and collisions, and put it up on a website?
I don't know that we would publish the data received. So it's more about promoting the tool that already exists that Kevin mentioned, that I'm blanking on the name, but safe street stories. And
Gotcha.
it's Safe Trek that does it. So it's elevating someone else's. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
And Street Stories is, I think, Berkeley.
Safe
is
Track, yeah.
who, and so it's it's not Menlo Park specific. It's,
So
but none of,
Thank you.
I don't know that another city has like formally, that it's just you can report wherever it is.
I think part of what Commissioner Rennie had said originally was, what can we learn from them? So
Sorry, I can't.
That's right.
getting,
The feedback
like
loop.
getting back that information, do we have a mechanism for
That's a good point.
that?
That's a very good
Like
point.
we can tell people to report things as much as they want, and I've reported things on there, but I would like to eventually know that somebody's looking at the data.
That would be the part.
So it's develop an outreach and response strategy? I don't know, but I do agree with you that we've kind of missed, or maybe we haven't really captured the element of the feedback loop, which I really do think is important. I don't know how you guys want to
So
do that,
maybe
but
it's develop, and somewhere in there is to try to like create a feedback loop about these things, right? Because we want people to be able to report, but we very much want someone to be able to get that data.
Is it publicly available? It
I think we
should-
want to say
like-
feedback loop, not review cycle, but
Right.
Like, can I go to their website and see all of the places where Menlo Park has?
Yes,
people
I
have
don't, I
reported?
haven't, well, I'll say this, once you're on it, I'm not super clear how to totally navigate, but once you're in it, like you can pull up, you can see the dots that other
Mhm.
people have put on, and you
Okay.
can click on those little dots.
I see.
I don't know that there's a place where you can get, like, I'm sure that you can get a spreadsheet list,
Mhm.
like by zip code. I'm sure they know how, they can. I don't know that the general public could.
Okay.
So that part is unclear to me, but again, I've done a little bit and then and then something distracts me and I'm done. But I have like definitely reported, a handful of near misses, and it's super easy.
So
Oh,
there's the
why does
opportunity.
this keep happening? Why is it? still
It is,
happening?
it is literally public data. Okay. Oh, you can sort by date. Amazing. Okay. So
I guess we're moving on to support the council's ongoing initiative downtown. We can maybe move on? Yeah. I don't know.
okay. Yes.
I wasn't saying that to you, Chair. I was more just asking generally. if
Yeah, I
we've wrapped
think,
up.
I think that bullet point. Okay. Last call. Number 7, support the council's ongoing initiatives to improve access to downtown and support downtown businesses.
I would take out the word ongoing. Because there definitely gonna be new initiatives.
Does this, this feels somewhat vague to me.
Yes, it does.
Does this include making recommendations on, for example, the Santa Cruz? I guess if there's any part of the Santa Cruz projects which are downtown, but
That's an interesting point. It does. Sort of. I guess, yes, I guess technically the Santa Cruz safety study stopped at University, which is right at the edge of downtown. But yes, I guess the improvements on Santa Cruz, safety improvements would improve access to downtown.
Can
I
just say something
yep.
crazy? Would this be the kind of place to create a subcommittee to look at El Camino bike lanes? Because that seems like it would definitely improve access to downtown.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's sort of the related question is, when we talk about subcommittees next meeting, we don't have to decide this tonight, but do we want to consider, after we decide what they are, to maybe put back some mention of those, not necessarily the subcommittee, but for example, let's say there's a subcommittee on, let's look at El Camino bike lanes. So you'd put in here, including looking at El Camino bike lanes, because we would have decided we're gonna have a subcommittee on it. So maybe there's an opportunity if subcommittees, form and about things that are more specific or supplemental to this, that we add language back in.
Ad hoc, whatever they, yeah,
Yeah.
our new name for them is, but, because that would be short, right? Sorry. Is it ad hoc committees?
Yes.
Instead of subcommittees? Because it would be
Yes.
a short term, like, here's what we know about these bike lanes,
Sure.
right? Like, here's how this, anyway, and then, yeah. Not like an ongoing meet about it, but
How do you feel about that, just off the cuff, Katrine and Joanna, like after we develop and agree on subcommittees and ad hoc committees that are short-term, project-based, exploration of different topics or, within the commission, that we consider putting back the mention of some of those topic areas that the subcommittees are going to focus on in the work plan. Are you guys open to that, or?
I think that makes sense. The only thing, I was gonna just capture it here just to remind myself to
Sure.
create a subcommittee for that. So if I just add it now rather than next month, one less edit next month, and then it's a reminder to me that this would need a subcommittee, ad
Sure.
hoc subcommittee
Mhm.
creation.
Okay.
So review bike
And
lanes on El Camino.
And if no one volunteers for that subcommittee, we remove this point?
Yeah, yeah,
Wh-
yeah.
Yeah, we're making a lot of subcommittees. And, another thing to consider is we don't necessarily have to create all the subcommittees. The ad hoc subcommittees need to have a defined task. We don't necessarily, for example, there's the ad hoc subcommittee for the work plan. That subcommittee will end
Right.
next month. So
Sure.
this El Camino Real Bike Lane Subcommittee doesn't have to start next month.
Right.
So.
Right.
Sorry, I have a clarification question. When you say subcommittee, would you like to add a bullet in the work plan and say the commission will be creating subcommittees, including the following?
I would add them in where they're relevant, right? So as for example, like we're talking about access to downtown, if we do a review bike lanes and El Camino subcommittee, I think it makes sense to put it there. If we're talking about a subcommittee about, I don't know, encouraging bike buses, I don't know, any other websites or like subcommittee on e-bikes or something, that could go in a place where it makes sense to go.
And we can create ad hoc subcommittees 6 months from now without bullet points on the work plan.
Yes, 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 yes. Good, very good question. Mhm.
So given that, do you want me to have 4A or should I take it out?
I mean, I would put it in there because if this is going to go to the city council and we already know we have a subcommittee, I think they should know we have a subcommittee on it. But that's just my opinion.
It's a gentle way of letting them know we
Mhm.
think it's a nice idea.
Mhm, mhm.
I'd say can mention it since it's something that we have mentioned on our commission in the year that I've been here, basically every month. So if we have a subcommittee for it, we should mention it.
So I have a question that's a bit, doesn't have to do with any of the printing on here, but as we've been sitting here, I've been thinking of projects that we've worked on in the past that don't fit into any of these categories, at least at first blush when I look at it. And I just want to make sure that some of the work we do is encompassed here. For example, we did a very intense 2 meetings on the shuttle program. Maybe prior to Meredith and you guys joining, I'm not sure, but we had a meeting where we looked very carefully at all the Caltrain crossings and talked about which ones we recommend doing, like this extremely expensive $8 million, like kind of opposite openings. So that would improve safety. And then we also did like, okay, Samtrans is proposing moving a bus stop, right? So we have reviewed at different times some Caltrans stuff that would have, influencing the railroad and Caltrans. We have looked at obviously El Camino, which is Caltrans, and Samtrans, whatever. And then we looked at the bus stop thing. So where does that come in? Because I do want the commission, I don't know if I'm saying getting credit, but I do want the scope of the commission and the kind of work we review to not always just go back to like, the master plan or whatever, because I don't know if some of these things some of these things seem to be generated outside the scope of the city of Menlo Park.
Does that fit under number 5? Excellent segue, Sally.
No,
Oh, because it would be like
the shuttle program does, I guess.
vehicle-
but-
Right. And I'm not certain that the shuttle program wasn't on our work plan.
Oh, it wasn't in the
Like,
work plan
For sure,
last year?
not last year, but the
Oh.
year before, like, I
Oh,
feel
it
like
might
the
have been.
shuttle plan was,
might
although I
have
missed one of the things. I thought there was a time when shuttle plan
It
was
absolutely
on
might
our
have
work
been.
plan, but maybe it came,
It might have been.
I blur them. Anyway, so I was just wondering, like, in reduced vehicle miles traveled, because there's walking, transit, zero emission, the bus lanes would fit in that, right? Reviewing bus lanes would fit in that, reviewing the shuttle would fit in that. So there are things that come up that are like part of that, right?
Yeah, so
Policy-
I do,
projects and
I agree
policies.
that the shuttle program is part of 5. In fact, it makes me want to say in 5, recommend and evaluate projects and policies, because we did a lot of evaluating of the shuttle program. It really was a
Oh,
big chunk of time.
That's perfect.
So I would definitely do that. The other thing is, but I do think there's something I'm getting at, which is, entities that are not the city of Menlo Park and are not the staff of Menlo Park coming to the city of Menlo Park and saying, we would like the Complete Streets Commission to review this and this, right? Like, or Caltrans and Samtrans come to you and you think, I think the Complete Streets Commission should review this, right? And my 2 examples are the Caltrans crossings and removing bus stops was the Samtrans thing.
Oh, Atherton came by.
And Atherton, that's true. There was like, thank you, a neighboring city in our community that wanted our take. That was a very significant one to me because Atherton and Menlo Park sort of overlap for a period of El Camino. Yeah, and I thought they were smart to come to us. But anyway, so can you help me see where that's encompassed here? Because maybe it's up. Now I'm not looking at the top, but maybe it's up where we're saying that I think the first bullet point is something like, uphold the transportation master plan or something, right? Yeah, advise the city council to implement the transportation master plan. Okay, it's not in that. Maybe there is a separate bullet where it just says like, evaluate and provide input, or maybe it's evaluate and provide recommendations. Wait, evaluate and provide recommendations. Some of this stuff was to city council. Actually, both the bus stop and the Caltrans crossing went to city council. So I think it would be evaluate and recommend sorry, I'm tired. Evaluate proposals or transportation issues related to Caltrans, Samtrans, other communities for recommendation to city council or city council and neighboring communities. I'm not sure what I'm getting.
What if, instead of making it a bullet point, what if that did go at the top where it kind of lists out?
Oh, I do think it should go at the top because it sort of speaks to our scope.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were suggesting.
I
bullet
just
points.
don't think it should go within one because one seemed to be squarely about the TMP. And I don't think that any of that stuff falls into the TMP. I think it's just,
Kind of the intro paragraph.
it could be the intro paragraph or it could just be like, see, the intro paragraph, I don't know if it should be the, hold on, let me just look for it.
And this intro paragraph is the repeat from that other document that tells the commission that you kind of your, I don't
Actually,
know.
The intro paragraph, though, I think the second sentence in the intro paragraph is not from that document. We added that. I think you guys should take, I think we should take that out now because it's basically saying, hey, we want input on major land proposals. And I think we've now decided 5 has sort of supplanted that by saying the city staff's going to flag to us when something's inconsistent and then we'll have input. So I think that should go. So yeah, I think we could put it there. That's not bad. I like that. Go Meredith. The Complete Streets Commission provides advice to city council. And then again, maybe people can help here because I'm starting to kind of lose my ability to form sentences, but maybe there's a second sentence there that's like, evaluates proposals or projects or proposals. Well, we did with in both Caltrans and like bus stops, we voted a motion and recommended to city council that X and Y happen. In the case of the bus stops, it was repealed to city council went against us. In the case of Caltrans, they considered they also disagreed with us actually. We said, I think our recommendation was to do all the crossings. And in the end, they decided to do like 2 first and then maybe others later or something just because of the expense, but either way. So evaluates proposals or projects related from neighboring jurisdictions. That's good.
And then does that also, would that fold in like the, would that fold in the quiet zone? Like when that came before
That's
us,
another one
does
that's
that-
important. Yes,
Right.
yes.
I'm just, yeah, it's like, we're not gonna know, like, we can think about the things we've done in the past.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We just don't know what they're going to be in the future. I mean, we could guess, but.
I think it might be good to say neighboring jurisdictions and regional entities. But yes, the Quiet Zone's an excellent example. We did meet on Quiet Zone.
And I think it's like, I just read a thing that it is, coming.
Yes,
back.
I think so, yeah. So yeah, so thank you for listening to me. I think that's a good thing, a good ad. We're way down
Number
there.
8 in the, yeah, but now,
Now it's
Number-
5, I think. Yeah.
yeah.
Five, the only comment I had on 5 was that what you read out loud or what was on your in your staff presentation on 5 said the exact goal, and I love exact goals. The exact goal was like reduce vehicle miles traveled by 25%, So I know we got a lot of language in here, but I think we should say by 25%. Because that gives us, look at us, we know what the goal is, we know that's ambitious, and if we're gonna support that strategy, gotta keep that top of mind, That's my comment on that.
I think I asked Kevin about this last year. But I guess and this is not a discussion point about this, but it's just a question for you guys. And the answer doesn't have to be now. But I'm just curious, where are we on that 25% goal and what changes have best supported that so far?
That would be a great website item, in fact.
That's diving into our work plan already.
I do not know where we're at, but I know just from my professional background, 25% is a huge
It
number.
is huge.
Yeah.
It is huge.
And it's so, we could add it to the work plan, but it also could be that a work plan item would be too, because let me switch so the climate action plan says that reduce it by 25% or an amount recommended by the Complete Streets Commission.
Okay, we've
recommending
got some power,
25%.
people. We've got some power. The city council just said, we're waiting for you to weigh in on this. So either we do the 100%, put the pedal down, Kevin Rennie. We could also do, frankly, this would be so fun, let's do it. We could also say, hey, council, that's a really big goal. I'm assuming there's a year, like 2030 or something. What year is attached to that?
It's not in my tiny.
Okay, I have an
yeah.
idea. I have an
think
idea.
it's 2030.
Why doesn't the Complete Streets Commission say, thanks for asking us for what we think it should be? We agree with 25% by 2030 or 2035, whenever it is, but we'd like to add a goal that before 2027, right, or something like that, we improve it by, 10% and give a little short-term pressure. And the reason I say that is because then we can go in front of the downtown plans and say, well, we set this goal for 10% in the next 2 years. So we've really got to make this downtown development, encourage alternate modes of transportation and reduce VMT. So that would be cool. Maybe if you wouldn't mind, Katrine, after you've done all this incredible editing here, maybe before the next meeting or attached to the next agenda, if you could send us that language around the climate action plan strategy 4, so we know what that goal is. I mean, and the fact that the Complete Streets Commission was referenced, maybe we can propose something a bit more aggressive in the short term or something that kickstarts it.
Did you want me to capture that in an additional bullet or?
No, because we
Okay.
don't have it formulated and I'm
Got it.
just
Okay.
spitballing, but I think it would be cool to see the language and that will remind me to think about that. I mean, it might be super cool. Now I'm really going weird, but it might be super cool to do like a contest with schools and have the kids propose like the number of ways we could reduce vehicle miles traveled. That might come up with something really cool. Okay, I'm done. Yes, it would be great. All right. I can see a subcommittee forming, an ad hoc committee. I like the addition of this. Thank you for adding it, Katrine.
Okay, that's the last bullet point that I had. Would anybody like to revisit any bullet points? I think,
No, I don't think.
okay, we're done.
Yeah, yeah.
I heard a quorum of no's. So, okay, is that it? Do we vote on this? I don't think so.
Let me go back to
I guess
the
not.
actions. So no, you could vote if you wanted to.
We vote next month?
Yeah, we'll vote next month. I mean, I'll let you, but I'll bring back that one that you just saw on your screen, but maybe we'll have a little less red and then we can just review it and adopt it.
Great job.
Thank you. Let me show you what we need to do is decide who will be the commissioner that will present August 12th to report on the 2024, 2025. So this past year's accomplishments.
Well, I'm sorry, but I think, oh, okay. Okay, sorry, I was gonna say something, but it's wrong because you keep telling me that it's a consent item in September. Okay. Present on the 24 for accomplishments. I'll do it if no one else will do it. And then, because I'm assuming that Chair Cromos will do September 9th.
I will double check my calendar, but I am 95% for September 9th.
Yeah. Do you want to do the August?
I'm not certain that I'm here.
Okay.
So I just need to see. I certainly could.
I guess it would be either of us since Mary's out of town.
Sure.
Yeah, if you want
Yeah.
to do it. Okay,
But I
so
just wanted to see if I-
Commissioner Sebrin will check first for calendar.
Okay. Because I'm
And-
not, if it makes a difference, I'm not going to be here next month.
Yeah, that would be fun
Um,
if you want to do August. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, well, I just need to,
Sure. Of course. All right.
Um,
Woo-hoo.
Katrina, I don't know if at some point we want to see who will be here next month.
Yeah.
Yep.
Especially since we need, unless you want to, yeah, or we vote tonight. Do you just want to do a show of hands of who will be available to attend the July 9th meeting?
Okay.
Oh,
So 4 will bring us
we're
a
all gonna have to
quorum.
come. Okay.
So for those who will not be here, your final comments, can we make sure that we send out the like last draft of the work plan to those people who
Yes.
won't be here in advance so that they can provide
Yes.
comments probably only to you? Or I don't know how the Brown Act thing would work, but
I was actually hoping to publish our agenda packet a week early anyways. So that would help everyone, I think. So we will just
Okay.
do that.
Should,
just send our comments to you.
Well, I can
you're
send
not gonna
these
be
red
available.
lines tomorrow.
sure,
Okay.
but if they have comments on them, because the Brown Act, they can't send them to like the commission.
Correct.
But
So-
could we send them to the chair?
You can send them to the chair,
Okay.
you can send them to me, or you could send them to our ad hoc subcommittee.
Oh, right.
Yeah, those would be the 3 options.
oh, but that would be, wait, no, I don't think so because there are 3 people on the subcommittee, right?
Yes, but
But
Athena
if
is
you're a
one of
fourth-
them.
Oh, no, you could send them to the ad hoc
You
subcommittee
could.
because you're on there.
I'm
You
on
could,
it.
But like I
but Meredith
couldn't.
could not.
Yeah. 'cause
Got
then it'd
it.
be 4
Okay.
people, right?
So,
Okay.
okay, so either send them to me or to Katrine
Okay.
and,
Oh, right. Yep.
So attending in July is Scott, Athena, Kevin and me, right? Okay. Oh, so just building on the point that Athena just made, what about subcommittees? If the people, like if Jackie and Meredith have ideas about subcommittees, excuse me, ad hoc committees that they would want to see formed or be on, should they send those to Chair and Katrine?
Yes, because I'll send out that agenda packet a week early, so you'll have a time hopefully before you're out of
Yeah.
town, so
Okay.
you can send comments to
Great.
Athena.
Okay.
Okay.
happy to collate that information. Okay. So, we're moving on to item F. Informational items. Under informational items, city staff provides an update on matters of importance to the commission. Informational items are not action items. However, a commissioner, city staff member, or a member of the public may request to make a comment or ask a question on any of the informational items. The first informational item tonight is update on major project status. Katrine?
Do I have really great news? We have University and Menlo is an intersection where Drager's Market is, and that was a pedestrian safety project that went in as a pilot, I think as part of the Vision Zero plan. Like while the Vision Zero plan was happening, they were like, whoa, this is so unsafe. We're going to do this pilot now.
Yes.
And now it's been improved to be permanent, basically. So that pilot transitioned to improvements for the crosswalks and some bulb outs at that intersection. So I think it's got striped yesterday.
It did.
It's fresh.
As a matter of fact, I had written down here, thank the Public Works Department for Menlo and University. I saw that go in. It looks really good. Really brightly painted, looks really strong.
And so it incorporates the daylighting policy. So there's a kind of a crossed out section, I believe, that is where you cannot park in advance of the intersection. More good-ish news is that there's going to be a lot of construction happening this summer, which is great to go in, but a minor inconvenience over the summer. So construction will be starting on the Middle Avenue Complete Streets project, and the 2025 resurfacing project is also beginning. And that concludes my reports or
And-
major project status.
And the Coleman pilot as well?
Yes, it is. Mhm.
Okay. Do we
I-
have a timeline? Like when?
We don't have an
about that's
exact
gonna happen?
date.
Okay. But it will be this summer. for
Yes, it will, absolutely.
I saw today actually that the white dashes down the middle are like spray painted in. So it looks like that's coming. As long as we're talking about major projects, can I ask, I have on my sticky note, I was actually going to ask about Menlo Park El Camino bike lanes today. Do we think that will be coming before us in the near future?
There is not an initiative from council asking us to, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then another one I wanted to catch up on was Woodland and Willow Middlefield, that kind of
Yes.
area. I know some Laurel families are really interested in it. Do we have a feel for when that will be happening? My understanding is they want to do a lot of community outreach prior to get kind of feelings and opinions,
Exactly. So
roundabout, traffic lights, et cetera.
we're working through creating internally our outreach strategy right now.
Okay.
So we're,
So maybe in the fall?
that's what we're working on
Okay,
to figure out those
brilliant.
dates.
Brilliant, thank you.
I have a clarifying question on middle, and I don't expect there to be an answer actually, so I guess I'll say it's just something to keep in mind, but I know that when we were in the park the Sunday before the city council meeting, when they talked about the Middle Avenue improvements, myself and Jennifer Wise and Betsy were just taking public comment in person and feedback around Middle, and there was a pretty long discussion from some folks about their lack of a stop sign at the corner of Arbor and College. And it's actually one of the strangest things I've ever seen, where if you, Arbor is pretty a long street between Middle and I guess that's Creek, all the way down Arbor. There's a number of intersections, obviously College, Partridge, Cambridge, sorry, what are the other ones? Bay Laurel, then Creek. And they all, at every intersection, there's a stop sign except for at Arbor and College. It's just randomly no stop sign at all. So some of the residents were talking about that, and I think we passed it on, or maybe the council members passed it on to staff, but I just wanted to bring it up because it seems like a bit of a no-brainer, and I know that there's a lot of construction going on, so maybe it can't be an add-on, but I think it's something that we don't want to lose sight of. That's it.
Okay. Joanna, can you please call for public comments on this item?
For virtual attendees who wish to provide public comment, you may engage the raise hand feature. Or if you're calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. If you're participating in person, please fill out a speaker card from the back table, bring it to the clerk's desk, and please wait for your name to be called. You can then step up to the podium to make your comment. Having no one in queue for public comment, I return the meeting to the chair.
Thank you. Item G, committee and subcommittee reports. Are there any subcommittees that wish to report?
We put together a work plan.
Thank
Woo-hoo! Thank you for your
Thank you
work.
to the
Woo-hoo. Thanks for your good work.
subcommittee for the work plan for that.
We help, I guess, is what I would say. Katrine put together a work plan.
Okay, so I will adjourn the meeting now at 8:46. Thank you.